Let's put this in proper context. The design of the super deck, by its original intent and purpose, do you see the commission as well configured to address the ills and anomalies that it was designed to address?
Delta State must be broken down, dissolve this election, break it down to pieces, and let us pick up bits and pieces from the scatter destruction. The fact remains that I told the whole world, just like in the case of Wambushi, I told the whole world the only reason why everything Okowa said, plotted, and agreed with me, he reneged, is that he knows I'm not a robot. Okowa wanted a third term. If I was to have agreed to that arrangement, which he knows, and everybody knows that I will not agree. So when all those cronies and illiterates packed around him were insisting that this man is not controllable, I asked him, I said, you say I'm not controllable. He said, who told me? I said, oh boy, they told me. And I asked, if you know that you do not mean that, what is the reason if we went this far? If the man, the de facto man you call your father, has said this is the whole state, the whole traditional ruler, the whole church said this is the man, what was your reason other than the fact that, you know, I'm not controllable? And why should you control me? I should be able to answer my father's name. When I said Okowa was doing a third term, everybody thought I was talking stories because it was political. Today they've seen it. How do you bring a governor who cannot address a press conference? A governor who cannot speak, a governor who cannot discuss any issue? Okowa is the one ruling. The secretary to government is Okowa. Every appointment today is Okowa that has done it. So while it is the turn of Delta Central, for instance, Delta Central has been denied by bringing a stooge, a rubber stamp somebody who is called a governor. If the governor used him the way he used him under the so-called speakership he said he held, the governor is still doing it. You can see that the governor is ruling. I went today to our estate. The governor has built a house inside government house, you know, to continue the rulership. But it's not going to happen. God is not a foolish God. All of that is only momentary. And I say that the Desompadeg as it is today, Okowa, 2 days before he left, instituted Desompadeg. Why? You are leaving. Why? So the question is that he is the governor. He only have a puppy dog that he has kept somewhere who answers the name governor, but he's not a governor. He can never be governor. He's not a governorship material. He does not know what it takes to govern. He cannot govern a local government, talk less of governing a complex state like Delta. So you are not going to see any progress. In the few days he says he has governed, he has taken new 40 billion naira loan. The state is not going to develop because the state is not doing any IGRO. The state is not doing anything to pull himself out of the wounds that he's already found himself. So we are going to see a situation every month. We are borrowing money to pay salaries. We are borrowing money, and half of the money will be borrowed by Okowa's bank. Half of the money will be borrowed and taken by Okowa's crony. He has appointed, you see the commissioner list that is coming out very soon. 82% of it is, Okowa is a very, very negative, clever, wicked person to Delta State. But as you know, it's not the first in this country, so don't worry, watch out. Situation will vindicate me pretty soon. You will start seeing them. And I believe that God will show his hand in Delta State before long. All this will not work, I can assure you.
A school of thought believe and maintain that you're part of the political establishment in Delta State since inception, that is, since the return to democracy in 1999. How would you react to this?
Whoever would have thought of that, with greatest respect, lacks depth. In 1999, I contested the primary election against Chief James Ibori and Professor Sam Oyemari. I have never been in government with any of the successive governors. Even when Okowa asked me in 2015, after the election, that what position would I want to occupy. I told him outrightly that I cannot work for him. And I've never worked for the likes of Ibori or Odwanga and Okowa, who was the closest to me. And the only way Okowa became as close as he was that he came with a set objective of deceit and knowing my weak point. Every time Okowa spoke to me, he spoke with the name of God. To God. To God. And what am I living for? If somebody calls God, what else should be my basis of disagreement? By its office, you see a red Bible and a red Igbo cap on top of it. He used to raise and carry that every day to speak. But if there's anybody in this world, I bear testimony with all my experiences, that does not know God at all, it's Okowa. And God haven't allowed him to use his name to deceive people and truncate people to the extent he has done. I believe God before long will show his hands. I don't have a worry at all. I mean, we're at school. You see, when we're growing up, let me digress a bit. When we're growing up as small children, my father had everything that was juicy. My father was a bailiff in the court. He had everything, but the man just said no. We had a neighbor next to us, very wealthy, from Jos. Let me not call his name, but he's our immediate neighbor. When the war came, the war that came in 66, is that 68 or so? The civil war.
67.
Yeah. When that war came, these people ran away from Jos. When this man was coming, he came with about 15, 20 lorries. Something Brothers, Mercedes-Benz, Jeep, Range Rover, came with Norton security, Norton cook. No, the whole place was full. This was the greatest guy. My father was a CAC member. This guy was a Cherubim and Seraphim member. So when he goes to church, if you see this white garment this man wears with all these three wives of his when they were going to church and dancing. In fact, the man came to my father to say he wanted to marry one of my senior sister, who was the matron of the Uheli General Hospital. And my father refused. But before you know, this guy who was such a great woli in the church, suddenly one morning we woke up, the man said he was an Igbe member. Now, my father didn't have a car to take us to school. My father drove an American Chevrolet. But, I mean, his principles was not to take us to school. We should trek. So we did everything comfortable to jump in the boot of the car of this family that is our neighbor to go to school. My father used to tell us, he says, look, it is not all that glitters that is gold. These are ephemeral things. Don't worry yourself. Face what you are doing, face your life, and you'll find out. Cut this very short. I'm surprised. As soon as this guy came, before long, this guy joined a society called Abasimo. There's a juju called Abasimo. He joined it. It was a catastrophe. This man died eating his hair. This wealthy billionaire, trillionaire, died eating his hair. All the children died mysteriously. One of the children took gun and was shooting. They shot themselves. Today there's no home there. Me, Kenneth Gbagi, unthinkable. That's why I tell everybody that God is biased in my favor. Look at where we are. It got to the extent that I employed most of the children of this family. I was squatting in the boot of their panel van to go to school. So what I'm saying to you is that you can't cheat God. You can't force it. You can't do anything about it. God will remain God Are you there? He said, when I do what I do, nobody can interpret it except me. Psalm 118. So what I'm saying to you is, I don't have any worries at all about all the planes, the trappings, and what have you. I know. Do not forget that a tribunal disqualified and turned out the result of the election of Odwara, that they should go back for rerun. But the good thing about my election is that were the tribunal to find my petition to be right, and that all these sets of forgeries and the incursions of INEC, one of the prayers is to disqualify the election and a new election be conducted. And if that happens, it follows that it's only me, because you cannot bring new members. It follows that it is only my candidature that will be standing to run for the re-election. So God has a way of perfecting his act. I know God will liberate Deltans. I know God have a purpose for this state. I know we've all been pushed to our limits in life, and we will bounce back to the greatness and glory of God. And only God will take the glory, because it's a jealous God. Those who call God in vain will soon realize that there's consequences for so doing. Yes.
It's always a pleasure and delight having these conversations with you. Immeasurable thanks to you, Chief, for your time.
It will.